Welcome to News Edge, your sharpest source for daily headlines and deep dives. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and stay ahead of the curve. For over a century, the United States and Canada have shared more than just a border. They've built one of the world's most successful and enduring energy partnerships. This unique relationship has been forged through decades of trust, mutual benefit, and a shared vision for a prosperous future. From the earliest days of cross-border trade, energy has been at the heart of their cooperation, powering industries, homes, and entire communities on both sides. Today, this vast and interconnected power grid stretches for thousands of miles, seamlessly delivering electricity between the two nations. It's a marvel of modern engineering, with transmission lines and substations working in perfect harmony. Thanks to this network, millions of Americans enjoy reliable, affordable power every day, often without realizing that much of it originates from their northern neighbor. Canada's immense hydroelectric resources play a crucial role in this partnership. These massive dams harness the power of rushing rivers, generating clean, renewable energy on a scale few countries can match. This cost-effective electricity flows south, helping the U.S. reduce its reliance on fossil fuels, cut greenhouse gas emissions, and move closer to ambitious climate goals. For many American states, Canadian hydropower is not just an option, it's a lifeline. The cross-border flow of electricity also acts as a vital safety net. During emergencies like severe storms, heat waves, or unexpected outages, this partnership allows both countries to support each other, preventing blackouts and keeping the grid resilient. Operators on both sides work around the clock, constantly monitoring and adjusting the flow to ensure stability and security. This remarkable partnership is the result of decades of careful planning, formal treaties, and billions of dollars in shared investments. It stands as a testament to what two nations can achieve when they work together, putting aside differences for the greater good. But recently, this once stable relationship has been shaken by new tensions and political disagreements. What was once a model of international cooperation is now facing unprecedented challenges. The energy bond that symbolized harmony and mutual benefit is now at the center of a bitter trade dispute. Political leaders on both sides are clashing over policy, pricing, and control of this vital resource. In a dramatic turn, Canada has threatened to restrict electricity exports to the United States, effectively turning a vital resource into a powerful political weapon. This move has sent shockwaves through the energy sector and raised serious concerns about the future of cross-border cooperation. These threats have exposed a critical vulnerability in America's energy supply. For the first time in generations, families and businesses are facing the real possibility of power shortages and rising costs, all because of political maneuvering beyond their control. Now the nation must confront the sobering reality of a potential breakdown in this century-old partnership. The stakes are high, not just for energy independence, but for the future of U.S.-Canada relations, and the millions who depend on this invisible bond every single day. The U.S.-Canada Energy Alliance, once considered unbreakable, began to fracture as trade tensions escalated between the two countries. For decades, the seamless flow of electricity across the border had symbolized mutual trust and economic partnership. But now, that relationship was under threat. It all started when the U.S. imposed steep tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum, citing national security concerns. To many in Canada, these tariffs felt like an economic attack from a close ally, sparking outrage and a sense of betrayal. Canadian officials quickly began to discuss how best to respond, weighing their options for retaliation. In their search for leverage, Canadian leaders identified electricity exports as a key American vulnerability. After all, several U.S. states rely heavily on Canadian power to keep their lights on and their industries running. Ontario's premier took the bold step of publicly floating the idea of cutting off power to U.S. states like New York and Michigan. This was more than just political posturing. It was a clear signal that electricity could be weaponized, turning a basic necessity into a tool of economic warfare. Suddenly, millions of Americans faced the very real threat of losing power, not because of natural disasters or technical failures, but because of political maneuvering. The prospect of blackouts caused by international disputes sent shockwaves through communities and businesses alike. Meanwhile, Canada's federal government prepared a package of massive counter-tariffs, signaling their readiness for a full-scale trade war. The stakes were rising, and both sides braced for economic fallout that could ripple far beyond the energy sector. By including energy in the dispute, Both countries dramatically raised the stakes. What had started as a disagreement over metals now threatened the very infrastructure that powered millions of homes and businesses. The message from Canada was unmistakable. If economic pressure continued, they were willing to disrupt the power supply. This was a line few thought would ever be crossed between such close neighbors, but the threat was now on the table. Emergency talks began almost immediately, as both sides scrambled to prevent the situation from spiraling out of control. But even as diplomats worked to ease tensions, the damage to trust had already been done. The idea of using energy as a bargaining chip left a lasting scar on the relationship. Trust, once taken for granted, was now in short supply. Both countries realized that the rules of engagement had changed, perhaps forever. In Washington, U.S. policymakers were forced to reconsider their dependence on Canadian power. The crisis sparked urgent discussions about energy security, diversification, and the risks of relying too heavily on any single foreign partner. The once unthinkable prospect of a blackout, ordered by a friendly neighbor, became a real national security concern. The episode served as a wake-up call, highlighting just how vulnerable even the most advanced power grids can be when international trust breaks down. Canadian electricity is a cornerstone of U.S. energy security. Canada is the largest foreign supplier of electricity to the U.S., powering about 1.5 million American homes and factories. Border states like New York and Michigan rely heavily on this clean, affordable hydropower. Disruption would force these states to turn to more expensive, polluting alternatives, risking blackouts and higher emissions. The integrated grid has kept costs low and helped meet environmental goals. The trade dispute exposed just how vulnerable the U.S. is to supply interruptions. Officials now face tough questions about how to secure a reliable power supply. The incident underscores the strategic importance of Canadian energy and the risks of letting politics disrupt essential cooperation. Cutting off Canadian energy would send U.S. electricity prices soaring. Households and businesses in affected regions would see higher utility bills almost overnight. Rising energy costs would ripple through the economy, fueling inflation and raising prices on everyday goods. Industries that rely on stable, affordable power, like manufacturing, could face layoffs and production cuts. The economic pain would cross borders, harming both nations. Decades of shared prosperity from an integrated energy market would be at risk. Using electricity as a political weapon threatens to unravel this mutually beneficial system. Both countries could face a future of higher costs, supply chain disruptions, and weaker economies. Beyond politics, North America's power grid faces a deeper crisis. A recent NERC report warns that half the continent's grids are at high risk of blackouts in the next decade. The problem: traditional power plants are retiring faster than new sources come online. The transition to renewables is vital, but it's not keeping pace with closures of coal, gas, and nuclear plants. Much of the grid's infrastructure is outdated and in desperate need of modernization. Building new transmission lines is slow, bogged down by regulations and local opposition. The result: a brittle, overstretched system vulnerable to failures and extreme weather. Even if political tensions ease, the risk of widespread blackouts remains a growing threat. The grid's challenges are compounded by a surge in electricity demand. The electrification of transportation, heating, and industry is driving rapid growth in power use. Electric vehicles, heat pumps, and massive data centers are straining an already fragile system. New wind and solar projects can't keep up with rising demand. Grid operators are forced to rely on remaining fossil fuel plants to prevent shortages. The gap between supply and demand is widening, increasing the risk of blackouts. Approving and connecting new energy projects remains slow and cumbersome. Without rapid action, energy shortages could become a common feature of modern life. Blackout risks aren't spread evenly. Some regions face far greater danger. The Midwest, New England, Texas, and parts of Western Canada are especially vulnerable. These areas have lost many reliable power plants and lack sufficient backup. Transmission bottlenecks and environmental challenges like droughts add to the strain. Renewables are crucial, but their intermittent nature makes grid stability harder. Extreme weather can push demand up just as wind and solar output drops. Grid operators may be forced to implement rolling blackouts to prevent system collapse. For millions in these hotspots, power outages are becoming a real and growing threat. The perfect storm of fewer traditional plants, transmission limits, and weather extremes is testing the grid's limits. Solving these crises requires a two-pronged approach: diplomacy and modernization. The US and Canada must resolve their trade dispute and restore trust to protect the integrated grid. On the technical side, North America needs a massive push to modernize energy infrastructure and speed up new power development. Streamlining permits for clean energy and transmission lines is essential. Investments in renewables, advanced nuclear and energy storage will strengthen the grid. Smarter technologies like batteries and demand response programs can make the system more resilient. Without swift action, both nations face higher costs and unreliable service. The path forward demands cooperation and bold innovation to secure a stable energy future. The past year has been a wake-up call for North America's energy system, revealing just how interconnected and fragile our power networks truly are. As the sun rises over cities and rural communities alike, the demand for reliable, affordable energy has never been more urgent. Political and technical crises, ranging from severe weather events to cyber threats and supply chain disruptions, have exposed deep vulnerabilities in the grid. These challenges have tested the resilience of our infrastructure and the resolve of those who manage it. The US and Canada, bound by geography and shared interests, must forge new, resilient agreements to protect energy trade from future disputes and unexpected shocks. Collaboration is not just beneficial, it's essential for stability. A bold vision for modernizing our shared infrastructure is essential. This means embracing cutting-edge technology, integrating renewables, and reimagining how energy flows across borders. Massive investments in transmission lines, wind farms, solar panels, and other diverse energy sources are needed to meet growing demand and reduce emissions. Building a robust, flexible grid will help us weather future storms. Smarter grid management, through advanced storage solutions, widespread adoption of smart meters, and flexible demand response programs, will improve reliability and efficiency, making blackouts less likely and energy more affordable. Empowering consumers to shift their energy usage, whether by adjusting thermostats or charging electric vehicles during off-peak hours, can help balance supply and demand, making the entire system more resilient. The challenge before us is great, but so is the opportunity. With determination and vision, we can turn today's obstacles into tomorrow's progress. By embracing diplomacy, investing in innovation, and fostering cross-border partnerships, both nations can build a cleaner, more secure energy future, one that benefits all citizens and sets a global example. The choices we make today will shape the prosperity, security, and environmental health of generations to come. Together, we can secure a shared energy future that is sustainable, resilient, and full of promise.